right, White Line Agents, Colin here. We are here to talk to Sean Price today. I actually met Sean, was it yesterday, Sean? Monday. It was Monday,
I think it was
two
a
days
couple days
ago.
ago, Monday. That's right.
Yeah, a couple days ago. He actually got found through Eric found him. I'm not real sure how Eric found you. Do you work with Logan Fulmer? Is that who it was?
I work with Cameron Austin. I was shooting sports with his training sessions over at the Doghouse, and that's how I met Eric.
Gotcha. So we met, and then I was really impressed when we met Sean on Monday. We shot some videos for social media, walked around one of our flips. He's going to be taking them, editing them down, and then as we got to talking to him, he explained. He's like, "Yeah, no, this is what I do. I actually started off in doing more of the film stuff, right, more video, and then I started doing more and more photography. I went to his website, guys. He's got headshots. He's got real estate photography. He's got drone photography, all kinds of cool stuff that he's able to do." And I was like, man, we have not talked about photography and how important that photography is. And my personal experience is if you are in real estate, pretty much in any way, you're trying to sell a house. Okay. Either you are selling a house because it's your flip, which, obviously we do a lot of here in White Line. Either selling a house for a client. And one of the most important things is people are flipping through realtor.com or Zillow or Redfin or whatever it is that they're flipping through on their own. If your pictures suck, they're going to fly right by your house. It does not matter if it comes with, free gold bricks in the attic or whatever it might be. If your pictures suck, nobody's going to notice it. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. So Sean, would you mind introducing yourself, telling us how you got started? What brought you into this field?
Absolutely. So I started doing this about 3-4 years ago now. I like you said, I started off shooting video. Mainly in sports, kind of doing my own thing. And then I got into real estate about 2 years ago, and I started shooting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, nothing. Hey, if y'all wouldn't mind muting yourself, I think Matt or Edmundo, somebody's got a dog barking behind us. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself.
No worries. So yeah, I started shooting real estate about 2.5 years ago, and I started with photos. And ever since I've been doing that, it's I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. And I do videos as well, but yeah, doing the photo thing when it comes to real estate is a whole different ball game compared to video. But in my opinion, they're both necessary because doing video, it gives you a different feel and look of the house that sometimes a photo can't quite do. And it's the same vice versa. If, photos give the house a feel that videos can't quite give you too. So that when they work in tandem, they really kind of bring the whole house together. And I've shot smaller houses, condos, pretty big houses, ranches, pretty much anything within like 50, 75-mile radius of Austin. Like I've shot quite a few things, and I love drone photography is important as well too, because especially when it comes to the bigger spaces like ranches and that kind of thing, it's vital to have a drone, especially both photo and video, because I'll go out there and do photos sometimes, and it captures the property and everything just like it should. But I just can't help myself when I'm up there. I have to get video because I just feel like those two work so well in tandem with each other. But
yeah, so yeah, absolutely. So tell me, where do you see, like, when you're looking at real estate photography, where do you see that most of us screw up as realtors or as listing agents? Where do you see the most, like, oh my God?
In the prep, probably, I've shot houses, especially when I was first starting out. I would communicate with the agent and be like, hey, we're shooting Wednesday at this time. So I show up Wednesday and the house isn't prepped at all. The kitchen's a little scattered. The living room is kind of a mess, and just the whole house isn't really presented well and dressed nicely because I show up and I see that and I'm like, oh man, okay. We can still get some photos in, but like having the house dressed beforehand is vital because that's what sells the photos. I can shine as much light in the room as I possibly can, with, you know, all my equipment and that kind of thing. But if it's not dressed beforehand, that definitely makes the photos, it brings them down a little bit for sure. And I've done plenty of shoots where I'm just like, man, I don't, you know, I can only do so much. If the house isn't, you know, prepped like it should be, it's not going to look like you want it to.
So with that being said, prep like it should be.
Mhm.
Most of the time when I see that or when I think that, I'm thinking like less is more. We got to get rid of all clutter, right? I mean,
Mhm.
everything you possibly can get off the kitchen counters, right? Some people leave their toaster on the counter, some people don't. Get rid of the damn toaster. I don't care. You're not using it right now for this photo.
Mhm.
Things of that nature. What else can people do to prep for a proper photography experience?
So I would like you were saying, just like clear out as much as you can, because the photos you want to show the space of the room, and the more stuff you have in, the more that blocks your view. Like if you have like a tall light stand in a specific part of the room, that can kind of get in the way of seeing more of the space in the room. And it, once that starts to pile up and you have more things in the room, it makes the room look a lot smaller than it actually is. And you know, you can look at the specs and it'll be this room is however many square feet. When you look at the photo, you're gonna be like, I'm not so sure. So clearing out everything beforehand and not having it empty, but having it filled and showing enough walkable space, I think is key.
Yeah, guys, I think that's huge. Everybody wants a big house.
Mhm.
Everybody wants a big house. They can't always afford it, but they at least want it to look big, right?
Mhm. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
talk to me about the other one, like toilet seats. I've always been taught leave the toilet seats down, right? I
Mhm.
mean, things like that. What else do you see that are big mistakes whenever?
So toilet seats for sure. When blinds open, at the very least, blinds have to be open, whether they be twisted open or, in my opinion, I like to lift them all the way up just because that lets the most light in. You always want to have you always want to have the most light you can in every room, because the darker it is, it definitely brings down the quality, just like, you know, a cluttered room will.
And
Um,
nobody wants to see those half-inch mini blinds rolled down, anyways. Everybody knows what you got in the house. It's fine. Even if
yeah,
you got the faux wood, the only thing I would personally accent would be something like shutters or some really expensive window coverings. But
yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah,
And then
what
oh cleaning hardwood floors, especially dusting, is another big one. Like whenever I'm shooting a bedroom and there's like a dresser or a countertop, this could goes for any flat surface, you know, dusting, but that always shows up on my photos, especially when I'm going through the edit. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know, like if I just, or if there was just a couple seconds just taken out just to dust it, that would make the photos that much more better, because that little stuff, especially when the room is clean like it should be, that stuff always pops out more than it would like if it wasn't.
so like I'm gonna pare this down to the ridiculous, right? Get
Mhm.
rid of all the crap. Okay.
Yes,
If you anything you can move, move. I've actually been in houses before where I will take crap out of the living room and put it in the kitchen and then
perfect.
make them
Yeah.
shoot the living room. And
Mhm.
then I come back and I put it all back
Yeah.
and take stuff out
Yeah.
of the kitchen because I need those rooms to look full. I'll worry about the showings later.
Mhm.
The other thing, guys, it sounds like grab a Swiffer duster,
Yes.
right? Those are cheap, easy. You can carry them in your car. That's easy. I also have one of those little Swiffer with the spray that you can.
Perfect.
So, because
Perfect.
I'm with you on that. Especially doing a lot of rehabs, everything is dusty, constantly
Mhm.
dusty. You clean it, you leave, you come back, all the dust settled, it's dusty again. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. And that little Swiffer thing actually does a pretty good job for
Oh
whatever it
yeah.
is, $25. Pretty easy. All right, so we got clean it up, get rid of the dust, make sure we got light, which is pretty
Mhm.
simple on that one.
And then,
What
you
else
know,
do you?
other simple stuff, you know, just like vacuuming, mopping, just, you know, just like a solid clean will do wonders beforehand. And then, you know, just also just like getting a second pair of eyes on it, like, you know, taking a picture of whatever room, like, hey, I'm kind of struggling to think about what would look good in this room. You know, should I take this out? Should I keep it in here? Should I switch the color out for something else? And, you know, I can do that kind of stuff in editing, but doing it in camera in real time is always the best.
Well, and then plus the more you edit a photo, the weirder it seems to look,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
yeah, you can oh, can't you Photoshop it? I can Photoshop a lot, but
Yeah.
I used to shoot weddings and things like that, and they're like, "Can you photo?" I'm like, "You don't want me doing that because it's
Yeah.
just slow." Like, yeah, the first time it'll look good, but it's slowly going to get weirder and weirder and
Hmm.
weirder
Yeah. Because
the more we do that stuff.
trying to maintain those similarities throughout the photos as you continue to edit them just gets even more hectic. And
Yeah,
yeah, like I'm already blasting the room with a crazy amount of light, so that's gonna cover what you need to see. But
yeah. And then going forward, right? So we've exposed all this stuff. You talked a lot about the importance of having video and drone footage. I had a house listing. It was a little while ago, but it was on a golf course, and the house was amazing.
Mhm.
And being a golfer, it became more amazing with where it was positioned on the golf course, and that
Mhm.
was a huge aspect of that sell. And so I brought in a guy that did drone photography as well, and he did a lot of b-roll stuff where he would shoot the fountain that's on hole number 6 or all that crap, and then tie it all together in a video. How when do you think it's very important to include drone footage, and why, I guess?
I think it's more important to include drone footage when you have things like a golf course around or surrounding areas that you want to highlight. Like if it's in a community that has the really nice pool and like pool area that you want to show off, even if it's kind of like down the road or something, you want to make sure that you get that in its vicinity to where the house is, because that's part of what makes that house go. And
Right.
like especially like ranch stuff, like I mean they're so big, like uh ground photos and video are really important too, but seeing as much as you can in one frame is insanely important, especially when it's
It's
places like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
bad. And you had a video on your website that was killer because I don't know, I'm guessing it was probably 25, 50 acres, something like that. But you ran the drone down like a deer path. And it was the coolest thing. Like it was like bobbing through the trees, and it looked like you
Oh
were
yeah.
shooting from like a ATV or something like that, but you could tell it was flying because it was real smooth, and that was a pretty
Mhm.
slick video. I like that one a lot. I thought that
I
was pretty cool.
appreciate that. I remember doing that
Uh,
too. I took a couple tries, but I mean like once it's in the video, it sells it, it tells
Yeah,
it.
and I think, and for everybody listening, agents, he hit the nail on the head. Now he's saying it with drone footage, but don't forget it if you're just taking regular footage as well. If you are in an HOA or some sort of community that's got a badass pool area, it's got slides and all. Like the first thing that pops in my head is Alamo Ranch. If any of y'all have ever seen Alamo Ranch or the HOAs out there, they've got slides for their pool. They've got all these gyms and I mean all kinds of crazy stuff. And you want to get those photographs in the listing. So many of y'all
Mhm.
forget it, and it drives me crazy because you're not selling the house. If it's in a place like that, the house is beyond just those 4 walls. It's the neighborhood, and so you want to make sure that gets included as well.
Mhm.
And then plus those drone footage. I think I've got a piece of land that we were trying to sell, and it was kind of near a bunch of other stuff in a rural town, and I had a drone shot of it super high, and then I superimposed, this is where the McDonald's is, this is where the HEB is, this is, you know what I mean? So they could feel where it was in town because that was kind of a crucial part of it. It was a commercial sale. So I wanted people to know that there was additional stuff around there for sale. Um, have you ever done like a drone style video walkthrough with the agent in it, where they're kind of explaining the house? I've seen those like in $1 Million Listing and all that stuff, and they're pretty cool. Where it's like,
Mhm.
"Welcome to your home," and they'll open the door, and the drone will zoom in over their shoulder or something. You know what I mean? That kind of a
Mhm.
higher production walkthrough.
Yeah,
Have you ever done anything like that?
I haven't done anything like that yet, although I would love to. I've the closest thing that I've done to that was just like like a drone video that I've usually done, and I would just have the realtor do some voiceover over top of it, and then I think even for that one too, there was some things that she wanted to highlight, like you were saying, the inside of the space. So the drone film would cover one building, and then as I would cover that building, I would put the inside photos up over top of the screen so that you got a visual all within 20 seconds of the outside and surrounding area of the building and all the inside of the building too.
Right. And guys, it's so important to capture that feel. People make so many hip shot decisions. Like I was saying a minute ago, about, like, we've all done it. My wife does it. She lays in bed all night long and just goes through Zillow and finds new houses that I can't afford. And, and she stomps on them, based on how they look. So if we're not really getting a good look at all these things, and it really hurts. And if you're not showing everything, guys, you know how attention deprived we are. I mean, look at TikTok, right? A minute and a half, and you're stuck there for 7 hours. So try and keep things brief, make sure they're visually attractive, and you'll have a lot of people stop and at least look at your listing, which saves you a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. Next question is whenever you get these pictures ready to go, is there a particular order that you prefer that we put them in the MLS? So there's always like the key photo, which most of the time we'll put, the front elevation, the exterior of the house. Sometimes if we've got like a really cool kitchen or a water feature or something like that, I'll use that as my keynote image. But is there any particular order that you find is best for this, or you just like put them up there, let them figure it
out? I usually let them handle it, but just from what I've seen, I always recommend you kind of just start with, like the key shot front of the house, and then whatever other special features of the house, like if it has just whatever special features that the house may have, and then you just kind of go from there, the living room, kitchen, as you would walk through it kind of thing. So
guys, I got to be honest with you. I see so many people that will not take a picture of the double-sided fireplace because they ran out of room, but they have 3 pictures, one for each of the individual bedrooms that are just squares with a window. And I'm like, guys, nobody really needs to see what a square room looks like. Yeah. Maybe show the fireplace, maybe show the cool wet bar, maybe show the pool. Like, it drives me crazy when I see that stuff. And the other thing, I don't know if you feel the same way. The other thing that drives me crazy is when people leave ceiling fans on in the photos.
My goodness.
Does that drive you crazy too?
That was another thing I should have put on the list earlier with sweeping and dusting and all that stuff. Before I even take the photo, like if I walk in there, the room's set, and I look up and the fan's on, I turn it off and just wait for it to stop. Because the way I take photos, I take 3 at a time and then I merge them together. So if that fan is going, it's not going to merge properly. So I have to have the fans off in every room that I shoot.
With the 3 different exposures and layer them to give it that depth. Yeah, I've used that technique quite a bit too. Yeah. So basically, if anything's moving, guys, it's going to look like crap. And it's distracting. Like I always see that blur from a ceiling fan. It really distracts me on that.
Yeah, I've made that mistake plenty of times, but not anymore.
Yeah, same here. Okay, so next one is about how much do you charge to shoot a house? Like what's kind of the range to shoot a house? Because I've got something I want to share with the agents.
So the smaller the place, is usually starts at like 125, for like an 800 square foot, and then it goes up incrementally from there. Usually when it's the smaller houses, I usually stay from the range of 125 to 185, and then
let's say we got a 5,000 square foot house on a golf course. I want the works. I want every damn picture you can give me. I want drone. I want like everything. How much are we talking there?
So big house like that, it's probably going to be around 350 for the interior, and this is all ground stuff I'm gonna walk through. So probably around 350 for the interior, and then probably 75-50 for the exterior, and then so that would put you about 425. And then once I put the drone in the air, that's going to be another 125, especially because I'm bundling it with the indoor
since you're already there. Yeah. Then, so what I'm hearing you is somewhere between 125 and $600, right? On the high end of things. Guys, $600 for your most key piece of marketing. Your most key piece of marketing. Everybody just like, I'm gonna throw it in the MLS and I'm done. But that MLS pulls it and puts it on all the websites, guy. And this is the most key, is the way these photos look. So for $600, guys, even if you're selling a $200,000 house and you're making $6,000 on this thing, it's going to cost you about $250 for pictures. And I'm telling you, it is money well spent. I know a lot of y'all are like, yeah, but I got the new iPhone 13 or 14. And it's got this new camera. Yes, it does. Yes. And sometimes I cheat and I'll use that too. And I've got that one with the extra one so I can zoom out and get kind of that fisheye, which kind of throws off the dimensions of the room. Usually you'd want something with a true short millimeter on it so you can get the whole room without fisheyeing it and creating that weird bulbous thing to it. But what tips would you have for our cheapskates out there that are going to do it with their iPhone regardless of what you say?
So for that, I would the fisheye. If you just need to capture just everything in one thing, the fisheye would be the most useful for that. But of course, you're gonna get that odd kind of visual. But I would tell you to, man, I always try to avoid using it, but if you absolutely have to, just when I put the camera down, I put it around my waist area, and I always keep it flat facing the wall. Like if I was to put my phone up against the wall, I would always keep it like that. So whenever people take photos and stuff, it's usually like, the phone's kind of tilted, right? So now we're going this way. I always make sure to keep it as flat and up as I possibly can, because that's always going to give you the best visual. Always going to give you the most eye-pleasing visual.
So you're saying keep this thing around waist high, not our eye?
Because it's an iPhone, I would tell you just to keep it as flat and up as possible, just wherever you are, and you can keep it up like this. If you want to go the extra mile and put it at waist height laterally, if the room is lateral, or if it's a bathroom, vertical, I would recommend waist height just because that's where I take my photos from. But because we're not working on the same millimeter of focal length on cameras, I would tell you just to probably stay up here.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then try and keep it at like that 1%, right? I've learned that so there's 3 different lenses on the back of the fancy phones. And as you zoom in, it jumps from one lens to the next. And then when you get to that one lens and you zoom in even further, it's digitally creating that. It does not have the actual lens length. That's why the football, they're taking pictures like this with this big old lens, because it needs that focal length to be able to shoot that far.
Absolutely.
What the iPhone's doing is it's zooming in digitally. It's just assuming it knows what it looks like. So if you ever look at those photos closely, they tend to be very pixelated. They don't look good. And then, like I said, when you zoom out really far, you tend to get this really bulbous, looks like you're looking through a fishbowl versus, a true flat image. So guys, if you want to do it with your camera, there's a handful of tips, but it's really worth the extra $600. And I wanted to show everybody something real quick while I've got y'all here.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I also just wanted to mention too that, like, I know we sometimes want to save on costs, but if you think about it, I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to do any of the work. I just want to hire out, because then I can be at home working and, getting more leads and prospecting more. So that's just something to think about. It's just not worth the time to do it.
Like 1,000%. And like, unless it's just your hobby and you just really want to get into Photoshop and you really want to learn how the Lightroom works, so you really want to do some crap like that, great. But it like takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time to get good at it.
Yeah, I pretty much only want to go to a listing or to a property to put my sign in the yard and a lockbox on the door. Otherwise, I don't want to drive over there. I'm lazy as fuck. So I'll hire out everything I need to do.
I love that you say that, because I'm the same way. I'm like, somebody else, please. Okay, so hey, Hillary, can you see my screen real quick? For those of y'all that are super tight, and you're like, hey, I want to get these really nice photos, but I'm broke and I can't afford it right now, or I'm new to the business or whatever, or I just don't want to have to pay for things. That's cool. So this is the residential listing agreement, guys, the exclusive right to sell. You should be filling these out before you sell anybody's house. There's also exclusive agency, but I tell everybody exclusive right to sell. Doesn't matter. Both of them have the same thing in this contract. If you come down to right here where it says broker's compensation, we're going to earn 6% of the sell price. We fill out all this stuff. But right here, other fees and reimbursable expenses. Guys, if you really don't want to pay for this, you can put right here in the contract that says, I will hire a professional photographer and he will do X, Y, and Z. And because I will say I've used this a handful of times. Sometimes you got people that I want professional photos. I need 300 of them. I need a drone. I want all this crazy stuff. And it ends up costing like $1,500 or something really exorbitant. And I'm like, I can only use 25. If you really need or want all that stuff, I'm going to charge you for it. And here's how. Now, guys, this doesn't mean they're going to write you a check. This just means once you have this, you can put it in the closing docs. You can show it to the title company, and they'll reimburse you for the money that you've spent on this thing. Or you can just ask your clients straight out to pay it outright. Another thing that I want to talk about, so I'm going to stop sharing, And this is the last thing, and this is the one that's going to be scary to get most people in trouble. Sean, tell me about copyrighted images and how much trouble you've seen people get into that. We've never even talked about this, but I'm pretty sure you've seen some people get ripped on this. Talk to me about your experience with copyrighted photos and whatnot.
Yeah, so I haven't had too much trouble, but I've heard a good amount of noise surrounding it. Like the most trouble that I've had with it, I mean, I don't even know if this would fall under copyright. It was just like just neighbors like, hey, I don't want my backyard in these drone photos and that kind of thing. But as far as copyright, I know it can get tricky, but personally, I'm lucky and I haven't had too many trouble with it. Too much.
Well, because you're shooting the original image. So let me ask you this question. Shooting the original image, do you allow you give the clients the photos, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the photos belong to the client or whoever purchased them. You've got to be very careful, folks. If you choose to use Sean, y'all hear how he does his business, right? I mean, he's giving you the photos. They're yours to use. You can use them for whatever you want. He's not doing anything. I have heard a couple of horror stories about photographers that only sell you the right to use the photos for MLS. After that, they own the photo. Okay. If they own the photo, you cannot place it anywhere else without their permission. So you can't go put it on Facebook. You can't go put it anywhere else because they're not your photos. You have the right to use them for one thing and one purpose only. So be very careful about that. The other thing, I'm going to show my screen one more time real quick because I want to show something else. Because I also see this crap a lot. Can you see my screen, Sean?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I just pulled up a random listing. This is one I was looking at the other day. As you can see right here, it says copyright 2022 by the San Antonio Board of Realtors. Anytime you take Sean's photo or your photo, and guys, I can tell you right now, this is iPhone spectacular. Okay. This is not a professional photo shoot at all, but it's kind of a torn down house. I probably wouldn't spend the money on it either. But anytime you upload these photos to Sabor, they put this little copyright on it because you're telling Sabor they have the right to use it. If you take this and save this image as something else, not necessarily on your listing, but on any listing, like let's say it's somebody else's listing, you can't do that, guys. That is a copyright infringement. That is Sabor's property at this point. So you cannot do that. And the other thing you can't do is you can't use old photos. So like if this house sold, I'm pretty sure y'all all know this little secret. If you click on additional information over here and you click on listing and property history, it'll show you every time this property's ever sold. And I can go back in time and I can look at the listing as it looked whenever the heck this was, right? 2009. You cannot use old photos from old listings either. So I'm kind of on my soapbox, guys. You cannot do this. That first of all, it's an MLS violation. You can't, it's got to be representative of the property in its current state. So you can't use old photos. I see that a lot. That's a big no-no. If you want to get somebody in trouble, just tell Sabor on them. They'll fine them. The other thing is, guys, is you've got this copyright. Okay. So you can't do that. You got to be very careful about what you're doing with the photos and where you're using them. And the first step is when you talk to your photographer, make sure that you or your client own the photos. That is a big thing in this world. A lot of guys, they'll put watermarks on it, they'll put their name on it, they'll see it, they'll turn around, they'll sue the crap out of you, and then you're in trouble. And it's like, I'm sure if you've gone to any continuing education in the past 2 years, you've heard a story about that.
Can I ask some sense?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I had a fellow agent, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, who pretty much did that. He was in a hurry. He needed to list the property ASAP, didn't want to spend money on the photos, listed it with the previous photos. Now, this was from a cancel, so it was just recent. The homeowner switched realtors. He used the other realtor's photos, and he got sued for $10,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Guys,
don't do it. I'm telling you, and they always come in big. They always come in big. They're going to sue you for $100,000 for a picture, because they know you're going to end up settling around 20 or whatever it is. Guys, just don't do it. It's too easy. It's too easy to call Sean. Yeah. It's too like, and I'm with Hillary, man. The older I get, the lazier I get. I mean, maybe not lazier, but I'm just like, I know what I'm good at. It's partially lazy, but you also like Like, I can change my own oil. I know how to do that. But those guys, I'd pay them $50. They do it in 10 minutes, or I'm going to spend an entire Saturday, end up with bloody knuckles, oil all over the driveway, and I'm kicking the dog because it's frustrating for me. It takes me longer and it doesn't look as good. It's not quite as good as a job. Leave it to the professionals and make sure you pay for what you use. Do not use anybody else's stuff ever.
Even if, I've shot some houses like, they look, I'm looking at the photos that the past photographer shot, and then I show up and it looks pretty much the same. And I mean, it's still got to be my photos, So
yeah. And should you ever get sued, because let's say the photos do look the same, he's like, you stole my photo, you've got a point of contact, you've got a receipt, you've got everything you need to get Sabor or whomever off your case. Just like, hey, look, no, I paid for these are mine. Tend to send that stuff pretty quick. All right. Well, Sean, that's all I got, man. I told you it'd be pretty short and sweet. I'm going to attach all your information to this video so they know how to get a hold of you. Is there anything else you would like to share with us or let us know before we wander off and go try and find some more houses to sell?
I think I hit pretty much everything on the head, just prepping the houses beforehand, just a solid cleanup beforehand goes a really, really long way. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
And another thing that I just did with Sean, what Eric and I were doing on Monday, if y'all would like to hire him for this, I'm sure he wouldn't care, is we had him come out to one of the houses I'm flipping, and we were there for about an hour, and all Eric and I did was walk around and talk about the house. Now, this was a flip, so it was kind of like flip stuff, like little tips and tricks and whatnot. But we sat down for an hour. I don't know, Sean, what do you think we shot? 20, 30 videos?
It's up there for sure. And those were
something. Let's round up to 30. We'll say 30. Sean's going to get all these things. He's going to edit them. He's going to get them down to a minute. He's throwing some captions on them for him, making them cute, little social media stuff. He's going to give them all to us. Guys, I got a month's worth of social media posts just like that. Took us an hour. Took me an hour.
Yeah. We were just walking around like, hey, this, boom, like, and it's really just simple stuff, anything that you can put within 10 seconds. Sometimes not even, sometimes 5 seconds is enough. And just one more thing on the drone videos and media and just any videos covering a house. I would always recommend being under 2 minutes long at the most, because like he was talking about TikTok earlier, how, you can, it's just swipe. If you don't have your attention in the first couple seconds, you're kind of gone. But just be short and sweet with the videos.
And guys, if you're using this stuff for social media, I'm going to tell you some of the most successful social media posts I've had when it came to listing or properties for sale or whatever it is. To his point, it's always the unique thing. I had a ton of views, 100,000 views or something on this one house that sat on the hill, and it just had this huge, beautiful view. That's all I talked about. I didn't talk about the bedrooms, but I'm like, look at this view. It went off gangbusters. Another one had a spiral staircase up to an office, but right behind the spiral staircase was a bookshelf that if you pushed it, it opened to a secret. So there's like 2 secret offices. And it was like really, it was a $1 million house, really cool, but it like kind of panicky room kind of feel. And it was super cool. And I was like, so I showed that, guys. So if you're looking for social media on your houses, find the unique thing and point it out. All you got to do is say, isn't this cool? Blah, blah, blah. I've got this house listed. If you want to see it, come check it out. Right. That's it. 30 seconds. Keep it short and sweet.
Exactly.
All right, Sean, I appreciate you guys. Anybody else have any questions you want to ask about photography, drone footage, anything like that? How to sell your houses as quickly as possible without having to talk to people, just using pictures. Anybody questions? No, I love it. We'll call Sean, guys.
Nice.
I'm going to go eat some lunch, and y'all have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for your time, Sean.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all so much for having me. I appreciate y'all's time.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank you.